We want to talk about what are the options former President Trump has to get this bond to cover this judgment. Apparently, he must either pay the sum out of his own pocket or post a bond to stave off the state's seizure while he appeals this judgment there. Remember, in State Supreme Court Justice Arthur Engoron's courtroom from February the 16th. Let's talk about all of that even more with our friend, legal analyst Andrew Cherkosky. He joins us. Andrew, good to see you. I know you've been following this very, very closely. I guess my first question to you is, why can't he get the bond?
In recent days, a complex legal discussion has started gaining attention in news coverage and across social media. The topic involves the former President of the United States, Donald Trump, and a civil case that has reportedly resulted in an extremely large financial penalty. The situation has been analyzed by journalists, legal experts, and political commentators, and many questions have begun to emerge. What exactly is happening? What options may exist under the law? And why this issue is generating so much public debate? In this video, the goal is to take a calm look at the situation by examining what analysts and commentators have been discussing publicly while trying to better understand how certain mechanisms within the American legal system may work. But before we continue, leave your opinion in the comments. Do you think requirements like this are common in cases involving such large financial judgments? Or do you believe the situation raises questions about how these legal rules are applied? According to discussions circulating among legal analysts, the case may have resulted in a very large financial judgment. In situations like this, when a party loses a civil case and wants to appeal the decision, the court may require a financial guarantee known as a bond. This type of guarantee is generally meant to demonstrate to the court that, if the appeal is unsuccessful, the amount determined in the judgment could still be paid. In other words, it acts as a form of protection for the party that won the case, ensuring that the payment is not simply delayed indefinitely while the appeals process unfolds. Analysts often explain that this type of rule exists in many legal systems and has a relatively simple logic, allowing the appeal to proceed while also preventing the losing party from using the appeals process solely as a way to postpone the enforcement of the judgment. In the situation being discussed, some commentators have suggested that the bond requirement could be extremely large, potentially reaching hundreds of millions of dollars. This appears to be one of the main reasons the case has attracted such widespread attention and discussion among analysts. According to commentary that has appeared on television programs and in various reports, one possible difficulty could involve the type of collateral required by companies that issue these bonds. These companies, sometimes referred to as surety companies, may require very strong financial guarantees before agreeing to take on such a significant risk. In many cases, they prefer guarantees backed by cash or highly liquid assets. This raises an interesting point that many financial analysts often mention: the difference between wealth in assets and wealth in cash. Some individuals who are considered extremely wealthy may have most of their fortune tied up in real estate, businesses, or long-term investments. Those assets may represent enormous value on paper, but they are not always easily converted into cash in a short period of time. This distinction has been brought up repeatedly in discussions surrounding this case. The question many commentators have asked is this: even if someone owns highly valuable properties, could it still be difficult to assemble a massive amount of cash within a very limited time frame? Another issue being discussed involves the possibility of using real estate as collateral. In theory, properties can represent very large amounts of value. However, depending on the legal circumstances of a case, there may be limitations on how those assets can be used. Some analysts have suggested that certain court rulings connected to the case might restrict the ability to leverage specific properties in order to raise funds or obtain loans. If circumstances like that exist, as some experts have speculated, it could potentially make it more difficult to gather the required funds quickly. At the same time, it is important to remember that details in complex legal cases often become clearer only as additional filings, hearings, and rulings are released. This situation has also reignited a long-standing discussion about the exact scale of the wealth associated with Donald Trump. For decades, he has been widely known as a prominent figure in the real estate industry, with business interests that have included hotels, golf resorts, and various properties in several locations. However, as with many individuals who have large and diversified business portfolios, Determining an exact net worth can be complicated. Property values, company revenues, and financial evaluations can fluctuate significantly depending on market conditions and economic factors. Because of that, commentators often point out that estimating how much liquid cash someone has available at any given moment can be extremely difficult. This kind of discussion often arises whenever large legal payments or financial penalties are involved. On television panels and in legal commentary, several hypothetical possibilities have been discussed. One possibility sometimes mentioned involves asking an appellate court to reduce the bond requirement. In certain circumstances, courts may review such requests if attorneys argue that the original requirement may be excessive or impractical. Another possibility discussed by commentators involves seeking financial support from investors, business partners, or other individuals who might be willing to provide financial backing. In theory, public figures in different legal situations have sometimes created legal defense funds or other financial structures to help manage large legal costs. However, each case operates under its own legal framework, and there may be strict rules governing how funds are raised and used. Because of those complexities, what may appear simple in theory can be much more complicated in practice. In addition, there is always the possibility that future legal rulings or negotiations could alter the situation in ways that are difficult to predict in advance. Within discussions about the case, the name of the New York Attorney General Letitia James is also frequently mentioned. As the official connected to the legal action, her office would play a role in enforcing the judgment if the required payment or guarantee is not provided within the time set by the court. Legal analysts often explain that in certain civil cases, authorities may pursue methods to recover the value of a judgment through assets if the court ultimately determines that such actions are appropriate. Those procedures could involve legal processes related to properties or other forms of financial holdings. However, every step in such processes typically involves additional legal reviews and timelines, which means outcomes may unfold gradually rather than immediately. Another major topic frequently mentioned in commentary is the issue of time. When courts set deadlines for financial guarantees or payments, those timelines can strongly influence legal strategy. Attorneys generally analyze these deadlines very carefully when deciding which motions to file and when to present them. If certain actions are not taken within the specified time frame, some legal options may become more limited or more difficult to pursue. Because of this, legal commentators often note that periods like this can be particularly intense for legal teams as they evaluate their strategies and possible next steps. As might be expected, any legal matter involving a figure as widely known as Donald Trump quickly becomes the subject of significant public debate. Some observers view the situation as an example of how the legal system functions when large civil judgments are involved. Others believe the discussion raises broader questions about proportionality, financial requirements, and access to the appeals process. There are also those who argue that cases involving complex financial disputes can often take years to move through every stage of the legal system before reaching a final resolution. Although the issue is fundamentally legal in nature, some observers have also discussed possible political implications. Because Donald Trump remains a prominent political figure, developments in legal proceedings involving him can sometimes become part of broader political conversations. Some analysts suggest that legal events involving major political figures may influence public perception, while others argue that legal proceedings should be evaluated strictly within the framework of the law itself. At the moment, many discussions about what might happen next remain speculative. Appellate courts may consider requests, attorneys may introduce new legal arguments, and additional rulings could influence how the situation evolves. In complex legal matters, it is common for multiple stages of review and litigation to take place before a final outcome is reached. For that reason, legal experts often encourage caution when interpreting any single development as a definitive conclusion. Beyond the specifics of this particular case, the broader conversation has also touched on how legal systems handle extremely large financial judgments. Some legal scholars have argued that very high bond requirements may lead to discussions about access to the appeals process. Others maintain that such rules are designed to ensure that court decisions are respected and that successful parties in lawsuits are protected from unnecessary delays. These debates are not new within the legal field and are likely to continue for many years. In situations like this, many experts recommend paying close attention to official court filings and verified reports. Major legal cases often generate a wide range of interpretations, especially when they are discussed in opinion programs or political commentary. For that reason, distinguishing between confirmed information and speculation can be essential for anyone trying to fully understand what is happening. Now, I would like to hear your perspective. Do you think financial requirements like these are necessary to ensure that court judgments are honored? Or do you believe extremely large bond requirements could make it harder for someone to pursue an appeal? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because your perspective helps expand this discussion. If you enjoy content that explains complex legal and political topics in a clear and balanced way, consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, and turning on notifications so you do not miss future analyses. Whenever major developments appear in international legal or political news, the goal here is to break them down in a way that helps everyone better understand what may be happening.